Shalom, Yashrala. This your brother Dawada from GMS St. Petersburg, Florida, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise unto Yahawah, BAHASHIM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHIM, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity in the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Just a few quick updates. We've been having problems trying to upload videos and whatnot to my channel. And, things like the sound and qualities and things like that. So, that's just a heads up, what I'm saying? I'm working on trying to get these videos uploaded to where, hey, we can continue to work of the Lord, feeding the sheep. But nevertheless, and there's another thing on this here video, I know that this video is going to be an extremely long video. All right. But however, I'm going to try to keep the portion where I'm reading through these scriptures pretty short. All right. It's going to be a lot of news clips that's going to follow this. So the majority of this here video is going to just be a lot of news clips, as you're going to be able to see the things that I'm going to bring out in the scriptures being manifested in your eyes today. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, we're living in a time now where all the things, well, not to say all the things, but the remaining things in the scriptures, the remaining prophecies of the scriptures are coming to pass right here, right now in your lifetime. All right. So we're starting to see all these different things as far as which this video is going to go into. The curse is falling upon Esau Edom, the so-called white man. His death and his destruction is at hand right here, right now. All right. Like, to clear up some of these little things that people are talking about, you know what I'm saying? Where, you have a lot of our people straining at gnats on a lot of things. You're talking about, like our people want to talk about, oh, you guys are cussing, so on and so forth, man. Hey, man, if you're worried about that, this is definitely not for you, man. All right, because the men of the Lord, we know who we are, where we are, and what time it is, man. We're about to inherit the kingdom of heaven, man. We're about to be reigning over all these heathen, man, over all of our enemies, man. We're about to take that rightful position as the sons of the Most High, all right? And these heathen are about to go up under our feet, all right? And it's not going to be no nice transition, man. We're about to go into a time, like the scripture said, a time like it's never been since there was a nation, even unto this same time, all right, which is known as Jacob's trouble, which is going to be the end. Like the scripture say, Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. So we're going into this transitional time where the so-called white man, Esau Edom, the damn devil, all right, is being cast out of his power, all right, and out of his kingdom. And it's not going to be it's not going to be how do you say, the Israelites going to just come up to the so-called white man, please, sir, can we have your kingdom? Doing it. No, it's not going to be like that. The scriptures say the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. They're not going to ask for it. They're going to take it. All right. And it's not going to be no pleasant, taking up out of their hands, just like when they took the kingdom, or they basically took us into captivity. You see what I'm saying? That wasn't no nice process. You see what I'm saying? When we came over here on cargo slave ships, that wasn't no nice process. You see what I'm saying? The whole time we was over here wasn't a nice process. Your days living here, still not a nice process. All right. So for you to think that this transitional period is going to be something nice and whatnot, like language that you would use in a daycare, it's not going to be like that. All right. And, we shouldn't even be making this as any kind of main focal point, the type of language that we use. And it's so much more bigger shit happening than that, man. We about to transition into the kingdom of heaven, man. The so-called white man is dying in your face, man. Your main enemy is dropping dead in your face, man. All right. And people want to talk about language and things like that, man. That's, hey, man, obviously this is not for you. You see what I'm saying? And also, talking about, the so-called white man, basically, in how do I say, when people hear us talk about, how do we say, death to America, death to the so-called white man, so on and so forth, people think that, oh, we might be going out there and killing them. No, man, that's not what we out here saying. That's not what we out here promoting. Just like you see these Israelite group camps walking around, getting guns, going to the shooting range. They're trying to touch this carnally. All right. This is not the path and the way that the Most High has set up, man. The Most High has a glorious redemption and salvation set up for the elect of Israel. All right. And how is this being done spiritually? The Most High is doing all of this stuff. All right. We starting to see these so-called white people. First of all, let me just give you a comparison. All right. You have some Israelite camps, right, going out to the gun ranges and buying guns and forming militias, with the mindset that they're going to have to battle it out with the so-called white man, which, hey, things like that are going to happen, according to Jeremiah 51:20. But the Lord's going to give us spiritual powers, man. He's going to turn us up, man. We don't have to be sitting here prepping and plotting and working out and getting all big and strong and getting guns and prepping for this shit. The prep that we doing is what? Through the scriptures. Blessed he that readeth. With all that get understanding. Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy time. All right. Hell, we can go into Ezekiel 9:4 about the men of Zion crying on the highways and the byways. They're going to get that mark of exemption. Then when you go to verse 5, the Lord going to turn up them damn angels and put the spirit on his men and turn up on everybody else. You see what I'm saying? We not necessarily, how do I say, first and foremost, we are not promoting so-called violence against the so-called white man. We're not telling you to go grab guns and go kill these motherfuckers. That's not what we're doing. We're telling you something more glorious than that. Sit back, be patient, and let the Most High work, all right? Because right here, right now, as I'm going to go through in this here video and show a lot of these video clips, man, white people are dying. Let me not say that. Edomites, all right? The so-called white man, they Edomites, all right? These Edomites are dying at a rapid rate, all right? They dropping like flies, man. More of these so-called white people are dying than are being born, all right? But nevertheless, all these things are happening in our lifetime, all right? So, and you don't have to pick up no damn gun. You see what I'm saying? Like, yo, I can walk right past the police, whatever, whatnot. They can take my identity or whatever, whatnot. And by no means are they coming up like, oh, well, we got you down here for murder or whatever, whatnot. Hell no, I'm not being charged with no shit like that. You see what I'm saying? I'm basically free to walk around here, and this bitch is a, how do you say, one of these, like citizens that's not a so-called criminal. Like, I don't got no warrant out for my arrest for no stupid shit. You see what I'm saying? So, look, man, we prophesying and telling you the downfall of the so-called white man, these Edomites, and what their end is going to be. And the Lord is bringing all these plagues upon them. All right. It's the Lord's work, and it's the Lord's doing. All right. So all you Israelites, you know, that's in this thing for truth and sincerity, you know what I'm saying? You seeking salvation. All right. With fear and trembling. All right. For all of you Israelites, all you got to do is sit back and enjoy the show, man. Get your popcorn and enjoy the show, man. All right. Sit back and see what the Most High is about to do. All right. You don't have to do this in your own hand, because why? It's not gonna be you that's gonna get the glory. We're not gonna be we're not no Israelite group. Them like, yo, we're gonna go out to get some guns and go to the gun range, and we're gonna take down the so-called white man so we can rejoice and be like, yeah, we killed the so-called white man and shot him down, and now that ain't what it's gonna be like, man. The Most High gonna get all the power and all the glory for all of this. All right, all the honor and glory for all of this. All right, him and his son. All right, this is the things that's going on in our lifetime. All right, so as you start to watch these here videos and all these so-called white people, these damn Edomites dropping like flies, this is the Most High touching these motherfuckers, man. They all dying off left and right, left and right. And, you know, it's all in the spirit, man. We about to go into the Passover tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, hey, man, going back to that time, man, when we was up in Egypt, right before we had that Exodus, man, the Most High brought those curses just like right now, man. Man, damn. Just like right now, man. All right. The Most High is touching these goddamn Edomites. All right. And they dropping like flies, man, in their whole household, man. None of these motherfuckers are being untouched, man. Each and every one of them and each and every one of their damn families is having to deal with something, man. Whether or not it's suicide or whether it's opioid addictions, fentanyl addictions, alcohol addictions, depression. All these curses are falling upon the so-called white man. And there ain't no excuse. There is an excuse. They Edomites. All right. And the Most High did this. But carnally, there ain't no excuse for this shit, because all the excuses they trying to pull out is all the same shit that you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans go through. All right. Same with the homosexual community. Oh, they committing suicides because of depression and this and that. But like, wait a minute. These motherfuckers only came out the closet a couple years ago in a massive wave like this. And now all of a sudden they dying of depression. Like, you motherfuckers as a whole ain't been coming out the woodwork like this. All this spiking shit didn't happen until about, well, I want to say less than 5 years ago, not even 5 years ago. You see what I'm saying? All this is spiking with, I'll just say 5 years. But nevertheless, the same so-called depression and oppression that these so-called, the LGBTQ community or whatever is going through, it's the same shit you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans have been going through since you got over here, and you still go through it. All right. And it's not one of these type of things where, you know, like, you know, the argument with these, homosexuals is, you know, some of them will be like, you know, we got to hide who we are, so on and so forth. And this and that. I can't just come out and be who I want to be openly. Hey, compare that to a so-called black man. All right. For him to hide that he, you know, so-called black people, well, all the tribes really, but, you know, me speaking as a so-called black man, you know what I'm saying? I can speak on experience. You know, we have to live a double life, so to say. You know what I'm saying? We in the closet all the goddamn time about everything. You know, when we go to the job, the workplace, all right, we got to be in the damn closet. We can't be, how do I say, we can't be who we are. You see what I'm saying? Jake, you see what I'm saying? We got to like a certain thing. You know, you at work sitting around a damn lunch table or the break table at work or whatever, whatnot. You got all these Edomites, whatever, talking about, let's just go back to Obama days, right? And you got all these Edomites, they might be talking shit about Obama, whatever. Now, by no means am I bigging up Obama, and no means. But nevertheless, you got these Edomites talking shit about Barack Obama, and you sitting at the lunch table with them, and you the only Jake around, you know what I'm saying? And what you think you got to do? You got to go in the closet and sit there. Yeah, man, this motherfucker, this and that. Jump on the same bandwagon that they on, so they don't sit there and throw you, you know, put you up under the bus. You see what I'm saying? You got to pretty much jump on all their bandwagons, basically, so that you don't wind up catching more and more oppression. You know, you might go home after that, man, these stupid motherfuckers is talking this and that, so on and so forth, you know? So what? We have to hide who we are all the damn time, but guess what? We can't really hide our skin color. You see what I'm saying? So we can't, you know what I'm saying? We might have to hide who we are, be in the closet at work and hide our true feelings about certain things, so on and so forth, or in certain different places where we have to be around the rest of these people. We might have to be in the closet on those scenarios, but guess what? We can't hide our skin color, man. So people gonna already know and assume certain things based off of just that. You see what I'm saying? Just like, hell, if you was a so-called black man, you know about this. Walk through the damn mall parking lot, you know what I'm saying, and see how many damn doors you start hearing locking. Walk around some of these so-called white women or whatever, whatnot. See how many of them start clenching their purse. You see what I'm saying? And you ask them, like, yo, how many people in your whole lifetime has ever just walked up to your car and just snatched you up out that bitch? You see what I'm saying? How many, you know, how many times have you been walking around somebody actually snatched your purse? And not saying that these shits don't happen, but statistically speaking, the majority of times when these shits happen is pretty much of the same so-called race on the so-called race. You know, a lot of the crimes the so-called black people commit is on more people that's just like them. And why is this happening? Well, deeper than, you know, what statistics say is these curses that's upon us. You know, we have a hatred towards our own brethren. But nevertheless, carnally speaking and statistically speaking, we commit crime. Anybody's going to commit a more crime. How do I say this? You're more likely to commit a crime to the people that's closest around you. You see what I'm saying? So for a way bigger example, if you live in Florida, 90% of the times you're going to commit a crime. Let's say you're going to whoop somebody's ass. You're going to shoot somebody or some shit. 90% of the chance, it's a 90% chance that you're going to do that shit to somebody in Florida. It's going to be a very rare sense that you're going to, you know, be living in Florida and get up and go to like New Mexico or some shit, go kill somebody over there, go have beef with somebody. No, you're going to have beef with the people you around all the damn time. So let's say for Jake in the hood, when they go and robbing and stealing from other people, it's more than likely the people around them. You see what I'm saying? Like, yo, you even in the same city, you don't really see Jake or anybody like the so-called black man go into the so-called white man neighborhood and start breaking into their houses, breaking into their cars. No, they robbing in their own neighborhoods. You see what I'm saying? So, but yet and still these people have these ideas inside of their minds. You see what I'm saying? So what? So-called black people, you know what I'm saying? They have to, you know how you go to a job or whatever, whatnot, you have to talk in a certain type of way. Hi guys, how's it going, guys? So on and so forth, you know, and you get back home, man, you goddamn people, whatever, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? None of that's neither here nor there, but nevertheless, showing forth as how Jake has to so-called live in a closet. All right. But what? All these other people now, they you know, like I was saying, the LGBTQ community, whatever, whatnot, talking about, oh, well, now that we have to come out the closet and all this and that, the depression on us and so on and so forth. I'm like, nah, man, that's not an excuse, man, because we've been having to deal with this same shit for the whole time since we've been here. And again, like how you all are, you know what I'm saying? You have some homosexuals that you can like the scriptures say, you can literally tell that they like that just based off of their countenance, how they carry themselves and what they dress like and what they doing. You know, it's obvious if you see it. Like there's a dude that live around me, like somewhere around me. I run into this guy all the time at the grocery store. But nevertheless, this is a full-blown, butch-looking dude, muscular-looking dude with a goddamn beard, a Hulk Hogan haircut. This motherfucker look like he literally could be a wrestler or some shit like that. But he walk around in a goddamn skin-tight dress and some high heels and some fucked-up, smeared-ass makeup on his face. Like, literally, like, you see this dude, you be like, all right, maybe he not gay. Maybe this motherfucker lost a bet. Because it ain't even look like he trying to dress up to look nice and no shit. This motherfucker look like he lost a bet. But you see this guy multiple times like this, and you be like, oh, shit. Maybe this motherfucker's just like that. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, these are the things that's how do I say, transpiring in this day and time. Hey man, these curses, and when you go deeper in all this stuff, man, these Edomites are how do I say converting back to their natural state, man. This is their natural state that they in. When you see these more and more Alzheimer's, autism, and all these different things, yeah, a lot of this is due to the stuff that they pumping into you, but overall, the so-called white man is just reverting back to his natural state, man. All right, he going back to who he naturally was. This is why you're starting to see all these things come up out the woodwork like that. All right. So, and you know, like I was saying about the LGBTQ community and their depression and why they committing suicides. Again, that's just one factor, because the things that you complaining about having to come out the closet and people not accepting you, so-called black people still experiencing that. We had to experience this from the beginning of times we came over here. All right. We came over here in this, the state of being a slave. So just based off of our skin color and us being over here, when there's basically only so-called white people and so-called black people over here. All right. You had the natives as well, but the so-called natives, but nevertheless, based off of skin color right then and there, they could tell you like, yo, dog, you're not our color. Your ass is a slave. All right. So we had to go through that. All right. We still going through that to this same day, man. All right. People have these things, how do I say, these, ideologies based upon, oh, he is so-called black man. He gonna rape. He gonna do this. He gonna do that. He gonna kill this, and that, you know? So we have to walk around with these stigmas in our mindsets, All right, day in and day out, day in and day out. But what we wind up getting through all these things, all right? And you'll see in a lot of these videos how they talk about death by despair because the so-called white man is losing their jobs, and basically it's all going into economics. You know, they're losing their jobs and they can't provide for their family. And this is one of the things that's contributing to a lot of these male suicides, all right? Which I can totally understand the connection with that, because how do I say, instinctively, genetically inside of your damn DNA buildup, what you was created to be as a man, all right, is to be what? Protection, provider for what? A woman, her family, or your family. You see what I'm saying? Women go to men. This is why women don't like, you know, when they talk about alpha males and beta males, women don't like soft men. All right. They don't really like these types of men who can't protect them, provide for them. All right. And fuck, some people even argue this fact, but you go out with your woman, right, and have some dude walk up to your woman and start hitting on your woman. Hey girl, what's up with that fat ass, whatever, whatnot. And she start looking at you to do something about it, and you just back up and let that dude, you know, start talking to your woman. You think your woman gonna respect you? How long do you think you gonna still be with that woman? Because she be like, wait a minute, he ain't trying to stand up for me, whatever what's not going on. He can't provide for me, can't protect me. You know what I'm saying? Somebody roll up or whatever, whatnot, no weapon in their hand or nothing like that. They're like, yo, give me your bag or whatever, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And not even saying just because he can't whoop the next motherfucker's ass, because this dude might be some big ass MMA dude or whatever, whatnot, or he might have a gun. But the fact of the matter is, if you're not trying to stand up for, you know, to protect your woman and your family, hey man, she's like, yo, what good is he anyway? You know what I'm saying? He can't protect and provide for me. All right. So going into what? A man trying to protect and provide safety and provisions for his family. All right. When you take that away from them, you doing what? Ultimately, like they have a term, emasculating men. All right. You take away, just like women, you take away a woman's purpose, just like read the Bible. All right. When women was so-called barren, couldn't give birth, they didn't feel like women. Still to this day in some countries, if a woman can't give birth, she don't feel like a woman. Or let me flip it. Sometimes when, a lot of the times when women have children, they say, what? I feel like a real woman now. I'm a mother now. They understand the whole purpose and meaning of being a woman now because they have children. All right. They understand these, basically this genetic makeup. All right. See what I'm saying? So women will feel less as a woman when they can't have, children. Same with a man who, can't provide for his family. But at the same time, this is no excuse. All right. Because why? You told us it was no goddamn excuse. To think about it. When we was in slavery and stuff like that, and the so-called white man came up and took our damn wives in captivity and raped them in front of us, and we had no might in our hand, like the curses said it would be. All right. With a felon of our eyes, with no might in our hands. All right. When they was taking our kids and separating us. All right. And raping our women and things like that. Hey, we couldn't do nothing about it, man. The man had to sit back and just, hey, man, we can't do shit about it. Fast forward till today, same thing going on when a man's being separated from his wife with this here court system, can't see his kids getting arrested, all his money taken away from him, so on and so forth. If a man will work, you know, all these different hours, overtime and so on and so forth, to have what, 30% of his check taken in taxes. So like it. Another large portion of it taken in child support and alimony and all these different things. All right. Now that man can't even, stably provide a roof over his own head, let alone try to start another family or provide for the family that he might have at that point in time. All right. So what? So you know what I'm saying? You taking the meaning of being a man out of the so-called black, Latino and Native American men, especially like with the so-called Latino men. You know what I'm saying? They come over here and they can't provide for jobs, and Native American men as well, to the so-called Native American men, you know, put them on these reservations, make them alcoholics so they can't provide for their family. Why do you think that, you know, with the Native Americans, a lot of them are committing suicide. All right. Why do you think you have a lot of these Hispanics and becoming alcoholics and things like that, and a lot of the so-called Negroes? Just about damn near every so-called black man that you see, you know what I'm saying, is using I want to be careful when I say using drugs and things like that, because it's a little different. All right. But nevertheless, you see a very high percentage of a lot of so-called black people smoking weed. Now, and I'm not talking about this new young generation. All right. Speaking on the older generations and things like that. All right. A lot of the older people, like, you know, our parents and things like that, a lot of them smoking weed and drinking alcohol and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But now at the same time, like, you know, for, you know, there's a difference as well, as that when you're doing things for party type, you know, you have people who go out and go get drunk and go get fucked up all the time to have a good time. But nevertheless, it's like, you know, I grew up with my dad drink beer like every damn day, right? You know what I'm saying? He don't never go nowhere without drinking beer. You see what I'm saying? And he also smoked, right? But nevertheless, he wasn't the type of person that's like, yo, let me go out and go party with my homies and go smoke and drink with them, this and that, and so on and so forth. You know, my dad was more or less like a a so-called how you say, a productive person doing these things. You see what I'm saying? Nevertheless, now as I get older, I see a lot of these things like, wait a minute, my dad drank every single day. You know what I'm saying? He's always smoking and always drinking, but yet he's not an alcoholic, and yet he's not really a drug addict. You see what I'm saying? These things now, and I go and I process some of the things that he's going through. Like, wait a minute, this man was taken away from his children. All right, couldn't provide for his children. All right, and his family. Like, you taken away. You know what I'm saying? All these other how do I say all the materialistic things that you have in life don't really mean shit comparably to, how do I say, the things that's instinctually put inside of you. All right. Go back in all the time in history before we had internet, buildings, cars, all this shit that we got now. You know what I'm saying? The same principles was inside of us from day one. You see what I'm saying? The man, like the scripture say, man shall leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife, and they should become one. All right, one flesh. You see what I'm saying? This is about your family and growing up and raising up your family and instilling with them. That's what you know, supposed to take not to say your pride in, but you know what I'm saying, honor and things like that, not these materialistic things. All right. So growing up and seeing those things being taken away from my father, all right, I see how it was like a downturn, you know what I'm saying, and just the curses upon him, you know what I'm saying. Never you know, like how does the scripture say, you work for wages to put into a bag with holes in them, more or less to say. You never really satisfied with it. Not saying like, oh, it ain't good enough, but nevertheless, you know what I'm saying, you know, you make enough money just to pay your bills, but after that, you ain't got shit left. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got enough. You see what I'm saying? But seeing all these different things, you can see how people go looking for a so-called stress relief or, you know, to get off of depression. All right. But nevertheless, these are the reasons why a lot of our people are in these things. All right. But what? We're not committing suicide like this shit. You know what I'm saying? We just dealing with it. You see what I'm saying? So-called black man lose his job. You know what I'm saying? He might go take a couple dollars, go get a beer, whatever, whatnot, then get up the next morning, go do the damn thing, whatever he got to go and do. All right. Our people get through these things, but you can read in the book of Genesis, 25, where it's talking about two manner of people are in thy womb, gonna be separated from thy bowels, and one shall be stronger than the other. All right, talking about Jacob gonna be stronger than Esau. All right, because again, he in the same boat that we've been in since we got over here. As long as we can remember in all of our history that we can remember, we've been in this here boat. All right, for the majority of our people, not the men of the Lord and the truth, but the rest of these people, the rest of our people, for as long as they can remember in their history, because their history to them only go back as far as slavery. So as long as they know, shit, we've been in these predicaments, but yet and still, we still thriving. We still actually growing. We, you know, our numbers are actually getting higher while their numbers are getting lower. And they're just now getting into this here boat. All right. They ain't been in this boat for the last, 20 years. They ain't even been in this boat for 20 years yet. You see what I'm saying? They just now getting here. We've been here over the last, 400 years. You see what I'm saying? And we've been going through this shit. You see what I'm saying? And we're really longer than that when you talk about the Native Americans. All right. But nevertheless, all these things have been going on, so it's really no excuse for these people. All right, all the things that you're gonna see in these videos, these people try to make excuses for all the lack of jobs and things like this and that. Yeah, I can totally see where that shit come from, because you taking away, how do I say, not to say the purpose, you taking away, you basically emasculating this here man. All right, you taking away, you know, let me give you a different example. Hell, if like a bird is supposed to fly, you take away a bird's wings, like it's not really a bird no more. You see what I'm saying? Like I don't know what the fuck you would call it, but it's not a bird no more. You see what I'm saying? But never like The Wizard of Oz, the movie, the fucking the lion. You see what I'm saying? The lion's supposed to be the king of the jungle, all fearless and this and that. But what? The lion had lost his courage. He lost his principle of being a goddamn lion. He nothing more than a goddamn pussycat at this point in time. He ain't no lion. You see what I'm saying? The little dog Toto was scaring his ass. But this is a big ass, vicious animal that's supposed to be eating little Toto and shit like that. But you didn't took away, like in the movie, they was expressing it as his courage, him being a lion. You took away his so-called, like how they would say today, his manhood, more or less to say. All right. But nevertheless, you see what I'm saying? After all these things, this will cause you to value yourself as a less, you know, in their sense, less than a man, will bring you down this here so-called path to, how do I say, death by despair or suicide. But again, this is not a real excuse, because why? Not only have you taken this same, you've emasculated the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American man to the same extent, all right, by doing this to them, taking their women away, taking their jobs away, not blackmailing them, demonizing them in the media. Oh, they're nothing but thugs, savages, rapists, murderers, criminals, and all this and that. You can't even be a so-called upstanding so-called citizen, as a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American man here in America without somebody critiquing you, all right, breaking you down. But nevertheless, they've been doing all this to the so-called black man, but yet and still we pretty much still here, all right. And the so-called white man has always been upheld on a pedestal, like he's God and this and that and so on and so forth, always been in his state of heaven. But yet these curses are just now starting to fall upon him, and he can't take it already, all right. But nevertheless, these things was all written about in the scripture. So with that, we're gonna jump into these here scriptures real quick, and like I said, there's gonna be some videos at the end of all of this, all right. So we're going to go ahead and start out in the book of Galatians chapter 6 verse 7. It says, be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So, hey, the Most High not mocked. All right, and we're going to get into, some other precepts and things like that to kind of back all these here things up. But just to set the tone, all right, just be, all the things you don't want to do to us, they say karma is a bitch, karma is real. All right, this is biblical in scripture. This is what we talking about, yo. You know what I'm saying? You can't sit here and let me see. Well, I'll read verse 8. It says, for he that soweth to his flesh shall reap. He that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the spirit shall of the spirit reap of life everlasting. Going into, a little deeper, because you're supposed to be building up spiritual things, not physical things, more or less to say, because why? When we go into this here transitional period, it's going to be spiritual things that's going to wind up being your safe haven, not physical things. All right. Your money ain't going to be able to get you nowhere. All right. But nevertheless, at the same time, looking here at this precept on a way lighter level, you see what I'm saying? If you sow, or if you plant an apple seed into the ground, you cannot expect a goddamn orange tree to pop up from that seed. All right. If you're going to plant an apple tree into the ground, expect apples to come up. All right. If you plant an orange seed into the ground, expect the orange tree to come up. You cannot plant an apple tree and expect you to get pears up off of that tree. All right. So you're going to wind up getting whatever you put into it. You see what I'm saying? So what the so-called white man has done unto the earth, not just fuck everybody else, man. What he's done to the apple of the most high's eyes, the Israelites, all these things going to be coming back upon him. All right. So as we starting to see all these different things happen to the so-called white man, all right, this is all biblical, man. And you shouldn't kind of feel a little weird about it. I know how you've been raised here in America and conditioned here in America to feel a certain type of way or not have certain type of feelings when certain things are happening or whatever, whatnot. Like some people like, oh, you shouldn't be laughing and rejoicing at people's downfalls and calamities. Well, according to the scriptures, man, the scriptures say, hey, you're going to rejoice at the downfall of your enemies. All right. They was rejoicing at the downfall of yours, and you're going to repay them back double for all the things that they've done. And plus, this is their future. This is what the Most High has set up for them. This is what the Most High is the position that he's putting them into. All right. So, and it also says, let me read this again. Be not deceived. The Most High is not mocked. So whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So the so-called white man ain't been doing nothing but planting wickedness amongst in the planet earth. So now that tree is starting to grow up, and the fruit that's falling from the tree ain't nothing but pure wickedness upon his own people, and he got to eat it. That shit is funny as hell to me, man. Because this stupid motherfucker went over here and planted oranges when he know that he needed goddamn apples, and now he mad that the tree done sprouted up with oranges and he ain't got enough apples to make the transaction go through. Now his ass is just assed out. You see what I'm saying? Let me grab something else to back that up real quick. All right, now this is, you know what I'm saying? Hey, this is still going into this. All right, this is on a way lighter level. But when these chariots come and all the things we've been telling you, all right, I mean, this is one of the things, you know what I'm saying? Like the things we telling you right now, but it's all happening. You can witness all these things. All right. But nevertheless, ultimately when these chariots come and the thermonuclear missiles come down, you know what I'm saying? Then that's when it's going to be how do I say, clear and apparent to everybody that, hey, we was right the whole time and you motherfuckers was wrong. Now you got to deal with it. All right. And again, straining it and that and people cussing and all that, and just not trying to make a big deal out of that, it's not being done purposely, but hey, you have to open your eyes. This is exactly what the scriptures is talking about. All right. And if you're not in that spirit, then hey, man, hey, put it this way. The men of the Lord that you're talking about in these spirits or whatever, whatnot, these are the spirits that the men of the Lord should be in according to the scriptures. And we're reading them right here, right now. So this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 1. It says, then shall the righteous man, all right, so this is the righteous man, not the wicked man. A lot of people are calling these people wicked. Oh, you guys are wicked over here rejoicing at people committing suicide and people dying. How are you happy that people are dying and this and that? Hey, because these motherfuckers are the Edomites, man. These are our enemies, man. We're going to rejoice at their downfall, man. Every time one of these motherfuckers die, you should throw up a prayer, say, call halal, YAHAWASHI, YAHAWAH, man. Giving all praises to the Most High and his son for the death of these goddamn bastards, man. All right, this is what we should be praying for, man. A swift death and destruction to your enemies, man. All right. This is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5 verse 1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness. All right, meaning that you ain't gonna be like wishy-washy about this. Now, man, we know what time it is, man. We've been studying these scriptures. We got understanding, and we understand what these scriptures is talking about, man. It's you 2/3 of our people who don't understand this because you want to keep cleaving to the so-called white man. The so-called white man ain't gonna get this. It's not his lot of his position to get this. You see what I'm saying? But what? Let me go back to the scripture. It says, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as has afflicted him and made no account of his labors. So what? We standing in the face of those that afflicted us with great boldness, the so-called white man, all right, who didn't made no account of our labors or the atrocities been done to us, while he was over here laughing in our face and, oh, the crack epidemic and this and that. We got to have a war on drugs. These crackheads are getting out of control. These motherfuckers was rejoicing at our downfall the whole time. Look at these niggas. These niggas ain't nothing more than crackheads and alcoholics. And look at these dirty spricks. They're nothing but more than alcoholics. And they're just, all they want to do is smuggle cocaine and marijuana in. Hey, man. Now the tables is turned on these stupid white motherfuckers, these Edomites, Salakia, on these Edomites. This is hilariously funny that all these motherfuckers are dropping like flies, man, and we ain't got to touch these bastards, man. All we got to do is sit back and watch these motherfuckers die left and right, man. This is the time and the day that we living in, man, when you going to get to see the downfall of your enemy right here in the sight of your eyes, man. Every day you going to wake up and turn on the news and see another one of these motherfuckers die, all right, committing suicide. And with the college scandal, see, these motherfuckers like to talk about low IQ. That low IQ shit is code word for niggas, all right? Because these motherfuckers talking about, oh, these niggas got low IQ. We're smarter than them. When in reality, these motherfuckers make up the damn tests, all right? And they have it skewed in their own, how do I say, to play off into their own favor, first and foremost. And plus, if you know anything about so-called black history or white history, you know that everything that these motherfuckers got, they stole from us to begin with. They ain't created shit on this earth except for death and destruction. Everything that they created is nothing but death and destruction. Everything we create is just life and flourishment, man. All right, you can go into the history of the creators of all these things. Yeah, they put their name on it and they take credit for it, but we actually created all these things. The only thing they created is death and destruction, man. All the things that they've ever created was tools of death and destruction, man. All right. But nevertheless, it says, continuing on the scriptures, it says, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as has afflicted him and made no account of his labors. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation so far beyond they look for. Now we just in the beginning of this right now, because this, again, like I said, this is ultimately talking about when we catch our salvation, when them chariots come through and start annihilating these motherfuckers, and all they start to see is majority Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans being beamed up. All right. Salakia. A couple of the confusion, well, it's going to, not to say a couple, they will see the confusion of the faces as well being beamed up, but the majority of these people are going to be what? Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. So that's when they see these chariots. But ultimately, not ultimately, right now, you're starting to see these curses come up off of us and fall onto them. Now they running around like chickens with their heads cut off. All right. You start to see these new, man, preparing these here videos that's going to be put into this. I had to watch a lot of different videos about this. And it's like they running around like with chickens with their heads cut off, trying to figure out why they dying off like with the masses. All right. I'm going to continue on. It says verse 3. Let me go back to 2. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. See what? See these prophecies coming to pass upon their ass. See these curses falling upon their ass. All right. It says, when they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all they look for. And they, repentant and groaning for anguish of spirit, shall say within themselves, this was he whom they had sometimes in derision, a proverb of reproach. We fools accounted his life madness and his end without honor. All right. How is he numbered among the children of the Most High and his lot among the saints? All right. So they said we fools counted his life as madness. Yeah. When we was out in the crack epidemic, when the war on drugs, look at these crackhead ass niggas, man. These nothing but a bunch of crack babies. These fucking niggas, man. This and that. Fuck these niggas, man. This is how they was talking about you. But now when we had this opioid and this fentanyl crisis, we have to talk about, oh, it's a national emergency. We have to have help. We have to have a help outline, a help hotline for these people. We got to help. This is a national emergency. We got to have sorrow and sympathy for these goddamn heroin addicted crack babies or heroin addict babies and shit like that, man. To hell with all that shit, man. I hope a lot more of these motherfuckers get the shit. And when you go deeper into all this, like we read, hey, that what you sow. First of all, the plant that you planted was what? When you took your ass over to Iraq or Afghanistan, all right, and invaded that goddamn country to do what? To steal the opium from over there, you stupid motherfuckers. Then you imported the opium over here to America and you started selling it every goddamn where. And then you got these so-called white people hooked on this shit. Then you was racist about the shit because there's not a lot of these so-called white people got hooked on it. Let's say a white man and a so-called white man and a so-called black man both going to the dentist. They both get their wisdom teeth pulled, right? Now they both have they gonna get pain medications. Now I ain't a doctor, none of this shit, so this might not be the procedure they going to get these certain medicines from, but you could get the idea. Nevertheless, they go in for whatever surgery and they gotta get some pain medicine, right? They'll give them a medicine which is basically heroin, right? In whatever kind of form, whether it be Oxycontin, any of them types of shits like that, right? So nevertheless, they'll give them these medicines. Now, for the so-called white man, they'll give them, let's say, a 90-day supply of these pills, right? For the so-called black man, they might give them a 6-day supply of these pills. Why? They'll be like, well, being racist, and Lord willing, and you know, we'll have enough time to put that clip in there where they break this here down, how racism kind of did help this here out, because they were saying them being racist was like, well, we know these niggas, all right, first of all, they don't have pain like how we have pain. You know what I'm saying? First of all, they didn't take in consideration that, yeah, bitch, we be in pain too. You see what I'm saying? But you know, they overlooked that being racist. Ah, these niggas ain't in much pain as we in, so we're gonna give them a smaller amount. Second of all, the so-called white man got way better insurance and this and that, so we know he can pay for it, and we're gonna make money off of this. You know, these niggas is broke. They ain't got no money, so fuck them niggas. You see what I'm saying? Second attempt that, you know, got it like that. Third attempt, well, if we give these niggas all these pills, they ain't gonna do shit but go around and sell them, and we don't want them to make money off of it that we can't make off of it, so we don't want to give it to them. And in reality, when it was the so-called white boys or these doctors, these fake ass doctors was writing their own prescriptions or selling prescriptions to other fucking white people to go out there and sell these pills, you know? Out here in Florida, we had a big epidemic of this where these so-called white people were selling these pills called blues. I think it's Roxycontin or Oxycontin or some shit like that. It's one of them pills. But nevertheless, these motherfuckers was the ones, they was the doctors, they was the ones writing fake prescriptions, they was the ones selling the shit, they was the ones buying the shit, and they was the ones reselling the shit, and they was the ones on the street levels buying this shit. You see what I'm saying? But yet these are all the racism that they were saying that we was going to do, but they the ones wind up doing it. All right. But nevertheless, and another thing they were saying, you know what? Well, we don't really want to treat these motherfuckers, so hey, we ain't going to give them the pills. But look, you planted that, you know what I'm saying? You went over to Afghanistan, got the opium and brought it in and was only, you know, being racist with it and only giving it out to your people. Now you done created all these addicts. You see what I'm saying? And now what? You know that you the ones bringing heroin in over here to sell on the street level. So you brought it in. You got your military over there invading another country for all that shit. You bringing it in over here, but yet your people are the ones dying from it. You see what I'm saying? You had all this racism against us. Oh, these niggas gonna be drug dealers and selling it. Oh, you bunch of drug dealers. Wait a minute. You motherfuckers are the big drug dealers. Big pharma, all that's big drug dealing. And who's the biggest recipient of all these, how do you say, side effects of this shit? So-called white man. All right. So whatever you sow, whatever you plant, you know what I'm saying? That's the same thing you're going to wind up reaping. All right. Let me just continue on with the scriptures. Actually, I'm going to change, apps here. I already went way too long, but I'm going to try to, like I said, run through these here scriptures real quick, and then we're going to get to these here videos. All right. So I want to go to, where do I want to start? We'll start in the book of Ezekiel 35. I'm going to go to Ezekiel 35 and 5. Salaki, give me 1 second. All right, Salaki, we back. This is Ezekiel chapter 35. I'm going to start at verse 5. All right. So keeping in mind what? The Most High said, you know, basically, whatever you plant apple trees or apple seeds, you're going to get an apple tree. All right. You plant wickedness, you're going to get wickedness. All right. Ezekiel 35 and verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. So in the time of their calamity, when we was already down, you pretty much was kicking us while we was already down. All right. So thinking back to what? The crack epidemic and things like that. You see what I'm saying? When we was already down, what did you do? Did you try to create a state of emergency and try to help and provide money and assistance to these neighborhoods and things like that, and provide rehabilitation, try to help those families, try to help those children? Did you try to help any of these people? No. You sat there, you took the children, and you separated them, made their lives way worse off than they was, and just put them in foster homes and things like that. All right. stopped a lot of, you didn't give these people treatment, so they just was way worse off. They wasn't getting any jobs. They was just, you know, just left to die. You see what I'm saying? This is what you wound up doing in the time of our calamities and stuff like that. You kept going forward and forward and forward. But what? Now in the time of your calamities, you want to start bringing in these, how do you say, national emergencies or whatever, whatnot. You know, it's a big deal now all of a sudden. You see what I'm saying? But what? The Lord said, because you had a perpetual hatred against the children of Israel. All right. Verse 6, therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Say, since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. All right. So this is the future of the so-called white man. This is what the Most High has prescribed for him. All right. So if you in the spirit of like, oh, y'all shouldn't be cussing and y'all shouldn't be talking about hatred and white man dying, this is what the Most High talking about. And if you ain't on his, if you're not on his side, then your ass is, hey, like Bush said, if you're not with us, you with the terrorists. If you're not with the Most High, then your ass is with the enemy. All right. Your ass gonna wind up dying. All right. Verse 7. Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from it him that passeth out and him that returneth. And I will fill his mountains with the slain men in thy hills and in thy valleys and in all thy rivers. They shall they fall that are slain with the sword. All right. And this is, you know, this is all the beginning of it. All right. I will make thee perpetual desolations, and thy city shall not return, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. Because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas Yahweh was there. Now, you know, and Lord willing, in one of these clips I can put in there and show, you know, they're talking about being minorities and so on and so forth, death by despair. And they always talk about, you know, if you don't like it here in America, go back to so on and so forth. But like, wait a minute, you know, and y'all don't want to become a minority here. Wait, this, you know, the so-called Latinos and Native Americans was the only people over here to begin with. You see what I'm saying? They was the majority over here. But then the so-called white man came over here and genocided them all off. All right. Then made them feel bad about their people dying, being exterminated. You see what I'm saying? But you can't talk about nothing like that. But nevertheless, the same so-called white man now is talking about, wait, our countries are being overran. Our countries, this is, no, bitch. This is the, first of all, you don't have no countries and shit like that. You see what I'm saying? Your landmass was Mount Seir. All right, over there like Petra. All right, this is your dwelling place. All right, but yet and still you came up out them damn caves in the Caucasus Mountains. All right, where you get your name Caucasians from, and you didn't stole the whole fucking planet. All right, according to Job 9:24, you didn't steal the whole planet. According to Job 9:24, the whole planet Earth was given into your hands. All right, you know, and in the carnal sense, we see this as known as what? Colonialism. All right, when you so-called white people came around and was stealing all the goddamn land from everybody on the planet Earth. All right. And oppressing all these different people. All right. And you being still the minority, you done went over and took over whole continents and countries. All right. And then basically made the majority of the population feel like they minorities, and you subjugated them. All right. But now the tables are being turned on your ass. All right. Everybody's starting to despise the so-called white man and calling him out for these things. And now they screaming, oh, it's a war on the so-called white man, and everybody hate the so-called white man. It's not necessarily that everybody hate the so-called white man. They just calling out your wickedness. All right. And yes, people should have hatred towards you, because the Most High has hatred towards you. But nevertheless, it's not just, oh, we just hating you because we haters. No, it's because of the things that you wind up doing, man. All right. So let me continue on reading. It says, verse 11, therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh power, I will even do according to thine anger. Now, listen closely. The Most High saying he's going to do, I will even do according to thine anger and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of the hatred against them. And I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee. So what? The Most High is using the same shit that they used against us back onto them, but it's 10 times worse. All right. They brought in crack over here and tried to, kill us off with the crack epidemic and stuff like that. They created AIDS and stuff like that, trying to kill us off with all that. But guess what? Now you're starting to see the heroin epidemic, and the fentanyl epidemic, opioid crisis, killing off these so-called white people. STDs is killing off a lot of these so-called white people. How do you say, infertility is falling upon these so-called white women and stuff like that. Hey man, the so-called white man life expectancy is on a decline. No matter how you look at it, one way or another, his ass is on a decline. Actually, I think statistically, the white man is actually, living longer. He's actually living longer. How do I say, based off of just his regular health. I think that the so-called white man is actually living longer, and the so-called white woman, is living longer based off of their natural health. But nevertheless, with these curses, they being killed off way before that. All right. Let's just say, for instance, for an example, you would live a healthy life up to the age of 85 and you would just naturally die of old age. Let's just say that's your lot in life. That's what it was going to be. All right. However, you would never make it to 85 because, i.e., let's say you committed suicide or, you know, you had an opioid addiction or alcoholic addiction, things like that. You had liver failure, all these different things. All these things are taking you out before you would reach your so-called potential death date of dying of old age. So yet they might be actually going to live longer. You see what I'm saying? Based off of the technology and certain things like that. But they're not even making it to that point because they dying off before all these things happen. All right. Let me continue on. Verse 12. And thou shalt know that I am Yahweh, and I have heard all the blasphemies which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel, saying, they are laid desolate, they are given to us to consume. Thus with your mouth have you boasted against me and have multiplied your words against me, and I've heard them. So the Most High hear all this bullshit you done talked about, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans saying what? They are laid desolate, they are given to us to consume. These ain't nothing but crack babies and crackheads and savages and alcoholics, and these niggas is just pouring in the ghettos and in the slums. They ain't gonna never do shit for themselves. They the minorities, they the poor. And so all this shit you've been talking about us, the Most High said, I have heard all thy blasphemies which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel. So you was talking shit about us. All right. Then he says, thus with your mouth have you boasted against me. Because why? We basically, how do I say, the glory of the Most High, how do I say, we're his representatives on the planet Earth. All right. So you talking shit about us, you talking shit about him. All right. Because we made an image of his, we made in his image. All right. We're supposed to be basically, the embodiment of righteousness on the planet Earth, whereas Esau was created in the image of the damn devil, man. He's the embodiment of basically the devil, death and destruction. You see what I'm saying? But yet and still you talking shit about us, calling us crack babies and all these different things like that. Oh, y'all a bunch of crackheads. Saying all this shit, you see what I'm saying? But what? The Most High hear all of that, all right? You talking about what? The children of Israel, all right? The sons of the Most High, all right? These are the things that these are the people you was talking shit about, and the Most High heard all this, and now he's bringing all these curses down upon you, all right? Verse 14, thus saith Yahweh power, when the whole earth rejoiceth, I will make thee desolate. As thou did rejoice, all right, listen up, as thou did rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, all right? So they was rejoicing when we was on our downfall, all right? So will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it, and they shall know that I'm Yahweh. So they was rejoicing at our downfall. The Lord said, hey, as it was done to you, you could do unto them. Repay them double. So what? We gonna be rejoicing at the downfall of our goddamn enemy, man. We giving all praise to YAHAWASHI for the death and the destruction that's coming upon these so-called white people, all right? Men, women, and children, all right? And their grandparents, all of these motherfuckers, all right? Let me read this part again. It says, as thou did rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it. So he said, thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, talking about Esau Edom, and all Idumea. So repeated it twice, but make sure he got every last one of these Idumeans or Edomites. Idumea is like a Greek way of saying Edom, all right, or Edomite. It says, O Mount Seir and all Idumea, even all of it. So the third time he had to clarify, yes, all you stupid white motherfuckers, you Edomites, you gonna wind up catching death and destruction. All right. And they shall know that I am Yahweh. All right. And going back to what I was saying earlier about the Israelites gathering up all these guns and all this. This is not the way out, man. The Most High is bringing these curses upon the so-called white man. All right. Right here in our face. All right. And he's doing all these things and he's getting the credit and the glory for all these things. All right. We ain't got to go out here and touch these motherfuckers. We're not going over here sneaking. You know, we ain't no drug dealers sneaking, bringing drugs in and putting drugs in their neighborhoods. No, the Most High put the spirit on these stupid motherfuckers to do it to their own self. You see what I'm saying? He using them to kill their own self off. We ain't got to do shit. We sitting back and letting the Lord work, man. So the Lord can get all the praise, honor, and glory for this thing to happen. All right. So from there, we're going to go to the book of Obadiah. I'm gonna start for time's sake, let me just get to this is all real good. I'm gonna just jump through and read about 3 verses. Obadiah 1 and 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob. Okay, and this is talking. Let me go to the top. Obadiah 1 and 1. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith Yahweh power concerning Edom. All right, so this is talking to the so-called white man. Esau Edom. All right. So going back to verse 10, for thy violence, this is being spoken to Esau Edom, the so-called white man, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, okay, for what he did to the Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. All right, because of the same shit that the so-called white man did unto us. All right, he gonna be cut off forever. Just getting to the point, you know, you can read all this in between him, because this is all going into all the things that he's wound up doing while he getting his payback, you know. All right. You know what? I'm gonna just read that all the way through, all the way down to 17. Verse 11, in the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captives his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was one of them. But thou should have not looked on the day of thy brother in the day he became a stranger. Neither should thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither should thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. So, even though these stupid motherfuckers was the one who brought us crack and cocaine and shit like that, they was over here proud on the news. Oh, look at these stupid niggers. They're just crack everywhere. I don't know what it is about them and being on crack. I don't know what it is about them and not having no jobs. I don't know what it is about them and leaving their children and divorcing their wives and not taking care of their... I don't know what it is about them. But yet, and still, you know, you over here rejoicing over all these things, the shit that you did to us, programming us with, all right? But what? The Most High is turning all this shit back around on your head, all right? Verse 13, thou should not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou should not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. You shouldn't have fucked with us, bruh. Neither should thou have stood in the crossways to cut off those that did escape. Neither should thou have delivered up those that did remain in this day of distress. All right. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thy own head. So guess what? Let me read verse 16. For as thou hast drunken upon the mountain, upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. They shall drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. So what? Verse 15 again. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return unto thy own head. So all the things that y'all the so-called white men have been doing to the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, so-called, all these things are coming back upon you, because why? You should never had touched the apple of the Most High's eye. All right. You should not have never put your hands on the Israelites. All right. Now, again, you was created for the day of destruction. That's what the scriptures say. All right. But nevertheless, all these curses are coming down upon the so-called white man because of the things he had been doing unto us. So what? Payback is a bitch. Karma is a bitch, man. The Most High is not mocked. That which a man sow or reap, so the same shall he reap, more or less to say. All right. Let me continue on. We're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 7. It says, Deuteronomy 30 and 7, and Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemy and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. All right. So guess what? All the curses that was upon us, the Most High is bringing down upon the so-called white man. All right. Man, woman, and child. Now we're going to get into just a couple of these curses real quick. As you can see in these here videos, I'm going to upload as well with this. All right. That, you know, the things they've been doing to us, it's all reverting back onto them. The exact same way that they did it to us is exactly how it's coming back onto them, but 10 times worse. All right. So this is Deuteronomy 28. I'm going to start at verse 16. All right. Now, these are all the curses that fell upon the nation of Israel. Let me read verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken to the voice of Yahweh thy power to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. This is the state of being that the so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans are in at this point in time right now. We under these curses. We still have hatred amongst our brethren. We still at the bottom while the so-called white man is at the top. However, like in the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6 say, Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. We in that transitional period. All right. So as these curses are slowly lighting up, the weight on our shoulders getting lighter and lighter, it's getting heavier and heavier down on Esau's shoulder. All right. So like I said, these curses was written for, you know, talking about us. But now, like we just read in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 7, it says all these curses, what curses? All the curses that befell us, all the curses in this here scripture is coming down on the so-called white man. So let's see how these things are playing out today. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 16, cursed shalt thou be in the city and cursed shalt thou be in the field. All right. So now multiple different ways. All right. Well, I'll read 17 is a different one, but, you know, no matter where the white man go, whether he live in the inner city or whether he live out in the country, People still looking down upon them as, look at these so-called white people. Look at, we can't stand their ass. Kershaw that'll be in the basket and Kershaw that'll be in the store. All right. Same with in the city, in the field, the same way. Whatever you set in your hand to, how do I say, economically, all these things is coming down on you. You see these, a lot of the suicides coming from these farmers and things like that because they can't make no more money. All right. Because what? The so-called white man wound up taking up all they damn lands, got these GMO crops and so on and so forth, and all these different things, making it so that they can't grow their own food, they can't sell their own stuff and make their own living. The same exact shit that the so-called white man did to the Native American Indians, so-called Native American Indians, killing off all the buffaloes, poisoning the water supply. You see them saying, tainting all the food and tainting all the crops. All right. You cut off all of our damn food supplies and try to starve us out that way. But guess what? Now all these things is falling upon you right now. All right. You committing suicide because you can't grow on your farms no more. All right. Verse 18. Kershaw shall be the fruit of thy body, the fruit of thy land, and the increase of thy kine, the flock of thy sheep. All right. So basically everything you set your hand to economically, all these, anything that you set your hand to, but, you know, talking in economic sense, you know, all your little businesses and things like that are starting to fail. You know, you got big companies and corporations like Google and things like that, and Facebook and all these different big institutions and companies and things like that. Even these colleges and things like that, they all been exposed as being scams and everything like that. So they all, you know, all these Harvard and stuff like that. Now they be like, well, really, the motherfuckers that going to Harvard, you know, if you got a Harvard diploma, basically, we know now that you didn't pay to have this shit put on your wall. It ain't really worth a shit. We just know now that all you niggas is paid to get your way into college. You see what I'm saying? Is it wasn't off your knowledge or your high IQ that got you there. It was because your parent paid your way to get in there. You know, but some people be like, well, the so-called black man, they get into college based off of athletic scholarships, not because of what they know educationally. You absolutely right, but it's in the open that these, let's just say these stupid dumb motherfuckers who don't got the educational wise to be into that college, they're in that college based off of what? Their ability to perform athletically, athletic wise, right? And this is why they was brought to the college off of athletic scholarship. And what is this athletic scholarship doing for this here school? It's bringing in them money. Obviously the NCAA and the basketball and all that stuff. A lot of Jake is in there, and a lot of Jake is in there off of these scholarships. All right, that they didn't get in there based off of their school or their education and stuff like that. They might not have been smart enough to get there. They might have been, but let's just say the ones that wasn't smart enough to get in, that purely got in off of athletic scholarships. They still got in based off of their ability to perform athletically. That's why they was there. They wasn't there, you know, off of a medical scholarship and they got in because they can catch a football. Nah, that ain't like that. Now, in contrast, you got a lot of these so-called white people that's going in there off of athletic scholarships that they don't even play no goddamn sport. All right. And they ain't bringing the school no money as far as in their athletic abilities. Now, in a lot of the college sports, pretty much all of them, I don't think they can get paid off of none of that. So all the billions of dollars is being brought in off of all that is going to the schools and not these so-called black athletes that are being brought in off of athletic scholarships. So they ain't making no money off of it. The school is. All right. So, you know, that's not a real argument. The so-called black people may not be in there based off of their grades, but they still in there based off of their athletic ability. And that's why they was even brought there to begin with, based off of their athletic abilities. But these so-called white people, hey man, they going over in there, you know, because their parents are paying things off. But guess what? All these curses is starting to fall upon you now. All right. You being caught left and right. You know, oh yeah, I'm a Harvard graduate. Oh yeah, we know you motherfuckers. Your parents probably paid them off to get that. You a stupid motherfucker anyway, walking around with your high IQ thinking you all this and that. The part of your heart has deceived you. Now all this is coming out in the woodwork. And now you've been exposed for being really the basis of the earth, man. You ain't in these colleges because you got a high IQ or you smarter than anything like this, or you run these businesses because you intelligent. No, it's because somebody paid their way to get your ass in there. It's not a what you know, it's who you know. All right. Continuing on, verse 19, it says, cursed shall thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shall thou be when thou goest out. You know, and that was, you know, when we was coming into this here world, you know what I'm saying? We was cursed because why? I believe the statistic is, I'm not even gonna try to quote the statistic, but it's a high percentage rate of, how do you say, abortions among so-called black people. All right. There's a high abortion rate. All right. So we cursed before we can even come into the damn earth. You know what I'm saying? There's a high percentage rate that we gonna wind up dying before we even take our first breath. You see what I'm saying? And we also cursed, you know, we cursed with these high medical bills and things like that when we come to the earth. Not only that, we highly vaccinated coming into the damn earth. You see what I'm saying? And same when we go out of the earth. You know, we wind up dying and leaving our relatives with a lot of debt trying to bury us. But guess what? Now, the so-called white man, first of all, the so-called white women have low fertility rates. They're not having babies. They can't have babies. Second of all, a lot of their babies are being born with how do you say, mental issues or whatever, whatnot. You know, they born with all these different problems and shit like that. All right. A lot of their babies or children are committing suicide. They got, like, you'll see in one of these videos, they're talking about going down to the age 10, talking about these young kids committing suicide. Speaking on suicide as well, when these people want to kill themselves, you see them saying, like, a lot of these men in these families want to kill themselves, and because they economics have turned down, they wind up leaving their families with a lot of debt. They don't know how to pay for all these things because the husband behind them, they ain't really had no money to begin with. You see what I'm saying? So what? They curse when they being born now, and they curse when they coming out. And now being born, so-called being white, is really being accursed upon these people. All right. Verse 20. Yahweh shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, rebuke, and all thy settest thy hand for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doing, whereby thou hast forsaken me. All right. And as you see, the so-called white man can't do shit without him being called out about it. All right. Everything the so-called white man is doing, he being called out about it. All right. No matter what he doing, whether it be politically, economically, internationally, on a local level, all the shit that he's doing, he being called out about, and he just being exposed for his wickedness, left, right, especially with the men of the Lord. We exposing them left and right. This is why we call you the damn devil. All right. Everything the so-called white man is doing, like the coup attempt in Venezuela. All right. That used to go by real well with the so-called white man. But now it's like failed coup attempt after failed coup attempt, failed propaganda over failed propaganda. All these things that he's setting his hand to do is starting to fail in his eyes now. America is the greatest country in the world, the richest nation in the world. Now it's in all this debt, can't get his way up out of debt. Now it's in so far in the debt, it's got a goddamn default on his loans. All right. Oh, we got the best military in the world. Well, now Russia really got way more highly advanced technology over you, to where your ass is in Stone Age, basically. All right. We got the best military, best trained. Well, now you got to bring in trannies and women, drafting in women just to get your numbers up. You see what I'm saying? America's falling behind on everything. America used to be so-called number one in technology, falling behind on all these things. All right. So everything the so-called white man is putting his hand on is turning into death and destruction. It's turning into a pile of shit. All right. And these curses falling upon them. All right. Let me just jump on down to read a couple more of these. Verse 28, Yahweh shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt only be oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. All right. That's where we was at, in this position that we was in, all the way up to the same day. But guess what? The way they say no man shall save thee, no man gonna redeem you up out of that position. Well, the only person that's gonna save us up out of this situation is the Lord. All right. That's why no man was going to be able to save us. No Martin Luther King, no Marcus Garvey, no referendum, no reform. None of that shit was going to save us. Only the Lord. All right. But for the so-called white man, now he's entering into this, and Donald Trump is not going to, like the scripture say, we would have healed Babylon, but Babylon is not healed. America ain't going to be made great again. All right. And it's not going to get good for you so-called white people. Hey, your heyday is over with. All right. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom. All right. While you have the chance, because your time is going down. This is why you people are dying of death by despair. All right. And this is what we're reading right now, verse 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt only be oppressed and spoiled evermore. No man shall save thee. So guess what? This is the death by despair that the so-called white man is feeling right now. Economically, looking at his family like, you know what? I done lost my job. I can't bring in as much as I used to bring in no more. I'm disabled. You know what I'm saying? My wife left me, or my wife don't want to be with me no more. My wife want to be with women now. My daughter want to be piped down by a fucking big brute black man. You see what I'm saying? Now my grandbabies look like black people and shit like that. My whole life is fucked up. You see what I'm saying? Yes, this is what's going on to the so-called white man in this here day, man. All of this is a reaction, not to say a reaction. This is all a reflection of all the things he done to us, but just way worse now. All right. He becoming extinct. All right. And let me just jump down to verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, a byword among all nations, whether Yahweh shall lead thee. And one of these bywords now for the so-called white man is what? The so-called white man, calling his ass, look, the white man, the white man, the white man. This is what's coming out now, the white man. All right. But now we really getting into the time frame now where the white man gonna be extinct. We're gonna be talking about Edom, Esau, Idumea, the Idumeans, the Edomites. This is what we're gonna start. We're gonna get to a point now. We're gonna just keep calling you Edomites. All right, because now, you know, it's far beyond being a white man. Now we're gonna fully bring you into your death and your destruction by fully exposing you to the world where, like, oh fuck, now I'm depressed because I'm an Edomite. You see what I'm saying? Let me continue on reading. It says, verse 38, thou shalt carry out much seed. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and thou shalt gather but little. for the locust shall consume it. All right, and this is one of the things, well, 39. But thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but thou shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worm shall eat them. All right, and so these are some of the things that you know, when we was in slavery and stuff like that, we was building up America. We didn't get to reap none of the benefits from it and things like that, so on and so forth. But now the so-called white man, see, he run everything over here. All right, but nowadays, what? They saying, look, America, the browning of America, the minorities is gaining, you know, numbers here in America. We're gonna be brown here soon. You know, we ain't gonna, it's not gonna be our country no more. Yeah, all the rape, robbery, and stealing that you've been doing. Guess what, man? Like Job chapter 20 say, that's gonna be what the restitution is gonna be. All right. Let me see. Well, I'm going to read that down. I wanted to grab that, and I'm going to come back to that then. I'll get that in Job real quick. It says, verse 43, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. And that's what happened to us. We at the bottom in verse 44, he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend unto him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. That's the position we in versus the so-called white man. He over top of us. But guess what? We the stranger that's among him. Now we getting up way higher up above him, and he going down way below us. All right. Verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come up upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou be destroyed. All right. This is what's happening to the so-called white man. All right. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahweh thy power to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. All right. Which that's talking, you know, going into the Israelites. But nevertheless, all these curses coming upon him because, hey, this is what his lot is to begin with. And plus, we read that in Ezekiel 35 and Obadiah chapter 1. Why all this is coming down? Because of his perpetual hatred against us. All the shit he was doing to us. Yo, man, the Most High is not mocked. Whatever you plant, you're going to have to reap that. All right. It says, verse 46, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So this is what's going to come upon the so-called white man forever and forever. Let me go up a couple verses. It says, verse 38, thou shalt carry out much seed out into the field, and thou shalt gather but little, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant a vineyard and dress them, but thou shalt neither drink of the wine, neither gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. Real quick, going into the book of Job. Job 20 and 12, I think. Nah. Verse 18. Job 20 and 15. He has swallowed, this is talking about the so-called white man. He has swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. The Most High shall cast them out of his belly. Jump down to verse 18. That which he labored for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be. He shall not rejoice therein, because he oppressed and have forsaken the poor, because he have violently taken away a house which he builded not. All right. So basically, you know, like the Most High said here, he gonna vomit it all up. This is gonna be the restitution, because he wound up swallowing all this here down. He gonna have to wind up throwing it all back up. So what? Going back to we was just reading Deuteronomy. He gonna be planting all this stuff, but he ain't gonna be reaping that up. You know, you done planted a whole grape vineyard, but you ain't gonna get none of the grapes out of it. So you didn't rape, robbed, and stole the whole damn planet Earth, but you ain't gonna, let me read this again. It says, verse 18, that which he labored for shall he restore. So you done planted all these grapes, but you ain't gonna get to reap none of that. You see what I'm saying? All these curses coming down upon you. You didn't heap the whole earth up under your rulership, but guess what? You're not gonna be able to take partake in all of these things. All right. Let me grab one more scripture, and I'm gonna close out with that. This is I'll read 3 through 5. It says Ecclesiastes 12 verse 3. In the days when the keepers of the house shall tremble, all right, and the strong men shall bow themselves. All right, so this is talking about, you know, the keepers of the house, the rulers, the elites, so-called white man. All right, they starting to tremble right now. All right, and the grinders cease because they are few, and they that look out of the windows be darkened, and the door shall be shut in the street when the sound of grinding is low, and shall rise up the voice of the bird, and the daughters of music shall be brought low. So this is the time frame that we living in now, where all the economic slowdown and all these things is happening. Again, this death by despair. The so-called white man is losing work and money and economics. Everything is slowing down for him, all right? This is now where he's starting to tremble. This is now where he's starting to be afraid, all right? Verse 5, also when they shall be afraid of that which is on high, and fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden, and the desire shall fail, because men go to his long home, and mourners go into the street. All right. Well, let me read this, verse 6. Or the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl be broken, or the pitcher be broken, or the fountain or the wheel broken at the cistern. So when things start falling apart, this is the time frame that we in now. This is where we at now. The end all be all for the so-called white man. He's seeing his kingdom falling right before his eyes, man. And we starting to see our enemy fall right before our eyes. So what? We gonna rejoice, man. We sitting here rejoicing at the downfall of our enemies, man, because all these curses are falling upon them, man. We living in the time of judgment on the Edomites, man. We've been watching the judgment of these Arabs and these other nations and so on and so forth for the last couple of years, and now what? The Lord's hand of judgment is falling upon the so-called Edomites right here in this time and this day. All right, so as we sit here and watch, how do I say, the transition of the kingdom, man, all we gotta do is sit back. Hey, well, first and foremost, we gotta endure to the end, all right, because the so-called white man gonna keep turning up on us more and more. But at the end of the day, we just gotta sit back and endure. All right, hold fast to what we already got. All right, keep pushing this here word out. Stay in the faith. All right, keep feeding the elect, raising up the elect. All right, so we can get this here kingdom. All right, and we'll just wait patiently on the Lord, because the Lord is doing all these here works in front of our face right here, right now, man. All right, so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and I done went way too long on this here video. I don't know. I'll probably do a part 2 to this, and you'll just see all the news clippings on the other side. All right, one way or another. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna put these videos in together so you can watch them on another side with that. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying into the elect. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahawah, BAHASHIM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHIM, RAKAKWADASH. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth. Pushing for another day, getting closer to the day of the Lord's return, and to the day we get into this kingdom of heaven, man. As we watching the downfall of our enemies in our eyes, man, we're going to rejoice and say, call halal Yahawah, BAHASHIM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHIM, RAKAKWADASH. Meaning giving all praises unto the Father and to his Son, and giving all praises to the Father in the name of the Son and the Holy Spirit, more or less to say. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out. Say, stay strong and shalom.
This 250-year experiment we've had with democracy could be coming to an end.
Might be on the edge of a precipice.
America has always prided itself on being the land of opportunity. That image, for many people, is fading. Say that for the majority, the reality of the American dream is disappearing.
I do worry about a world in which the rich get to write the rules, which the rest of us then have to obey.
A most unusual trend is unfolding in America. The number of deaths among middle-aged white Americans has been rising significantly since 1999. This is a major reversal of a decades-long life expectancy among this demographic group. It caught the attention of 2 Princeton University professors who decided to investigate what's going on with so many white Americans and why they are dying. Here's what they found. The deaths are largely driven by suicides, alcohol, and drug abuse, particularly the opioid epidemic, also chronic diseases such as heart disease and diabetes. Now, what's interesting about this is when you begin to examine these numbers, it's having an impact when it comes to the demographic changes. And so one of the reasons we are becoming a more majority-minority country is a result of white Americans dying at an earlier rate. There was a Time article actually a couple months ago that I found to be interesting, and even showed that in a number of states in about 5 years, the white death rate will actually surpass the white birth rate.
Wow.
Yes. No, that's real. That's real. That's what's going on.
You can't just attribute this to lower incomes, because Black and Hispanic deaths have been declining over the same period, and those groups have comparatively lower income than do white people. So
Right. Well, it's also interesting because these studies always look at race, and here the researchers found that Blacks and Hispanics face many of the same income struggles as the white working class, yet they've experienced a decline in mortality rates. So how do you make sense of that?
Yeah, well, so that's the puzzle for everyone. You know, what they say is that for whites, for working class whites, times were better earlier. So in other words, there was an expectation, more of an expectation of life improving. Whereas for blacks and Hispanics, you know, they've been moving up, certainly, you know, some parts of those populations, and there wasn't the they believe there just wasn't the expectation that with every generation you're going to live better than your parents.
Well, the reason people adore Donald Trump, first of all, they're white, so they're part of that white working class that was more susceptible to the myth of the American dream, and Baldwin writes that African Americans don't have that susceptibility because from the moment they are children, they understand there's two sets of rules, one for them and one for us. It's because these people feel trapped, they feel their lives are stagnant, they recognize that there's no way that they can actualize themselves, both in terms of meaningful work and economically. They recognize that there's no way out for their children, and are responding to the fact that they have, at least in their eyes, been discarded as human refuse. And I think they're not wrong. We have created an oligarchic system. Income inequality is now at the highest levels in American history. And, you know, there is a breaking point. You know, remember, as Barbara Ehrenreich says in Nickel and Dime, being poor, part of the working poor in America, is one long emergency, because when your old car that you can't afford to get fixed breaks down, you can't get to work, then you lose your job, then you can't pay your rent. And finally, it's understandable that you engage in some kind of activity to blunt the pain. And that's what we're seeing. And it's getting worse. It's not getting better.
Showed that starting in 1999, the death rate of middle-aged white Americans has been going up instead of down.
And we thought we must have made an error. I mean, the whole world is getting better. This middle-aged group is the one that's benefited most, at least since 1970, from advances in the treatment of heart disease, from people quitting smoking, all of those things. And then suddenly, for this trend that's going down, just to reverse out, seemed like it had to be wrong, but it was not wrong.
The big increase was in what Case calls deaths of despair, alcohol-related liver disease, suicide, drug overdose.
People kill themselves slowly with alcohol or drugs, or quickly with a gun.
It's a grim fact. Suicide is a major issue in the United States, where someone takes their own life every 12.3 minutes. Children, mothers, fathers, grandparents. First, the numbers for context, then the contributing factors. Suicide was the 10th leading cause of death in 2016, the most recent year of stats on record, and it's been a leading cause for years. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Suicide was the second leading cause of death in 2016 among people 10 to 34 years old, and the fourth among 35 to 54-year-olds. For some perspective, there were more than twice as many suicides, about 45,000, as there were homicides, 19,000. The most common method for suicide is firearms at 51%. Next, suffocation, including hanging, at about 26%. Then poisoning and other. Men are more likely to use firearms. Women often turn to poisoning.
A startling new report from the Centers for Disease Control. Researchers say teenage suicide is growing at an alarming rate. Since the year 2000, the suicide rate for teens is up 28%, with a startling average of 5 deaths a day. Jerika Duncan looks into what's behind the rising teen toll.
He was just an all-around great kid. He was an athlete.
Jennifer Gonzalez says her 17-year-old son, Jack Farrell, seemed fine last Thanksgiving.
And the next day I get woken up by the police knocking on my door saying I needed to come with them right away. I found out then that he shot himself in the head.
New CDC data shows suicide rates for boys like Farrell, age 15 to 19, increased more than 30%. 3 years ago, Conrad Roy died in this truck from carbon monoxide poisoning after his friend, Michelle Carter, encouraged him to commit suicide through dozens of text messages. In a highly publicized trial, we learned both teens suffered from mental illness. The CDC also says suicide rates for teenage girls are at a 40-year high. Experts cite family instability and substance abuse among some factors for suicide.
Service.
In the past 2.5 years, we've had about a 300% increase in the drug-related overdose ambulance runs, and the prevalence of opiate addiction in this area continues to increase.
21-year-old Morgan Gilman, who said she was looking for a stronger high after more than a year on heroin.
I picked up a large amount of fentanyl and then did what I would normally do. And then on my drive home, I was doing about 80 on the highway when I OD'd at the wheel.
She crashed, waking up handcuffed to a hospital bed.
Did that make you want to get off the drug, or did you still have a desire for it?
I was so afraid of detoxing.
For generations, opioids were prescribed sparingly, with the knowledge that long-term use could lead to addiction and death. That began to change in the 1990s, thanks in large part to lobbying by drug companies hoping to spike their profits. The result? A massive increase in opioid prescriptions from doctors and a huge infusion of narcotics into communities across the country. It is now common, for example, for patients to receive opioids after having their wisdom teeth removed. A recent study found that the majority of those pills go unused by the patient after surgery. The effect of this? 100 million tablets of synthetic heroin in circulation in American neighborhoods. And that's just from wisdom teeth extractions. Multiply that by countless knee surgeries and back injuries and diagnoses of chronic pain, and you'll begin to understand the scope of this problem.
Cheap heroin is more than filling the void.
If you can't get your pain pills that you were abusing, you're going to find a source somewhere, and so people are turning to street drug heroin, which is more dangerous in the sense that you're taking something made in somebody's garage versus something made in a factory.
In many areas, it's cheaper to get high on heroin than it would be to get drunk.
Economist Chris Room.
This is a major health crisis. I mean, drug poisonings have become the biggest source of preventable premature deaths. You know, so for example, there are more drug poisoning deaths than car crash deaths. And that's quite recent.
And says Dr. Denham,
I'm seeing just as many middle-aged women as I am middle-aged men.
All of this because they're about to come in contact with fentanyl, a synthetic opioid often mixed with heroin, but up to 40 times more powerful, and leaving a deadly trail across the country.
This heroin overdose is one of more than 80 in just 3 days around the tri-state.
As heroin sweeps across the nation, fentanyl is making it even more dangerous. And now users are taking it in bootleg pill form, mixed with God knows what. In 2015, the number of opioid deaths surpassed 30,000, fueled in part by the surge in fentanyl overdoses, far outpacing deaths by gun-related.
This would be an example of heroin, a lethal dose of a typical batch of heroin. And then this vial would be the typical dose of fentanyl. What would be considered
you can
correct.
barely see it.
Like it.
If anything can be likened to a weapon of mass destruction or what it does to a community, it's fentanyl.
The synthetic opioid is cheaper and easier to produce than heroin.
This is what the opioid crisis looks like in America. A driver and a passenger slumped over in a Ford Explorer. In the back seat, the driver's 4-year-old grandson waiting for someone to show up and help. The adults in the car had overdosed on heroin. That grotesque scene played out last September in East Liverpool, Ohio, but it could have been anywhere in this country. About 2.5 million Americans are now addicted to opioids, and that number is rising so fast that public health officials can barely keep up. Between 1999 and 2015, the number of deadly overdoses nationally rose from a little over 8,000 to 33,000 a year. That's a higher death rate than any war we've fought since World War II. In nearly all of those cases, prescription drugs were the root cause. Fully 80% of heroin addicts say they first got hooked on drugs prescribed by a doctor. And how it leads ultimately back to the crushingly sad tableau playing out in the front seat of that Ford Explorer in East Liverpool, Ohio. The driver of the vehicle was trying to get to a hospital after realizing his companion had overdosed. When paramedics arrived at the scene, they were able to administer the anti-opiate drug Narcan, though by that time her body had started to turn blue from lack of oxygen. She survived. Will she ever recover? If she's like many heroin addicts, she won't. She'll keep using and keep overdosing until one day she won't come back. She'll leave a family, maybe children, and they may too become addicts. The cycle will continue until someday someone in charge decides enough and addresses this horror at its source.
We were having a conversation today. We were driving in the car and we were talking about heroin addicts. And my son actually was asking, was there ever a time when racism was a positive. I said, well, that's a very interesting question.
It sure is.
Let me tell you about the number of black people who are heroin addicts and how doctors not prescribing pain pills to African Americans because they believe they're going to sell them, or they believe that black people don't feel pain at the same levels that white people do, or just in general, they don't actually want to help their black patients with pain. All these things, there's a fair number of studies on all of them. So, for example, an African American who goes and gets wisdom teeth pulled will not get the 90-day supply of Vicodin that a white person who has a really good Blue Cross Blue Shield coverage, they'll get, as my girlfriend did, 6 pills and, told, listen, if it's really bad in 2 days, come back and we'll re-prescribe. They have saved black people from the epidemic that is the heroin epidemic, right? Because they're not getting access to pain pills. We know that the number of pain pills you have helps correlate to whether or not you become addicted to opioids. That becomes correlated to whether or not you're going to get on heroin. People who can no longer get pain pills often turn to heroin. It's a much cheaper version, clearly, right? So we have all these deep, intense conversations about so racism kind of helped out, right? And this is the only one case, by the way, that I have found. This is kind of it, from what I can tell, the one.
He's like, Mom, it's nothing that you did. It's me.
Becky Manning's son got hooked on drugs. Fortunately, he's still alive.
Almost 40 now.
But she blames the drugs in part for her husband's suicide.
He just carried this tremendous guilt for everything, for our son doing drugs. Then he started getting depressed, and then my husband took his own life.
How did he do it?
He blew his head off. Yeah, I came home to that.
Best friend Marcy Connor's husband also killed himself.
He developed alcoholism very young in life.
An addiction he shared with lifelong friends.
One died with a heart attack, but drug use and alcohol use all the way through his life. Another one died of cancer, drank up to the very end. And my husband actually had a G-tube in, or feeding tube in, and poured alcohol down his feeding tube until he died.
Alcohol poisoning.
A brother that committed suicide also.
And 2 cousins, one of them a nurse.
And he started telling me that his depression medication wasn't working as well, and pain medication wasn't working as well, and he lost his temper at work one night and got fired.
Got fired.
They found him hanging in his garage.
And the other cousin?
She overdosed.
2013, the heroin epidemic started to take off. She was just turning 18 about that same time. She calls me in the summer and says, I need your help, Dad, which is something Brooke never said. We went and met for breakfast, and that's where Brooke told me that she was addicted to pills. I asked her how she was affording to have it, and she told me that she was selling her body to get the money to buy pills. Brooke believed that I could make it go away, that I could fix it. Probably 5 or 6 or 7 different rehabs and halfway houses in that year. When she relapsed again, she's out using. I knew she was staying in the trashiest motel around. I knew she was prostituting. I knew she was stealing. I felt like if she was prosecuted and she was given some time in jail, that might save her life. I requested that she be prosecuted for those charges, yes. 4 months in jail.
I remember when she came in, you could just hear the whispers down the hallway, it's Brooke Simmers, it's Brooke Simmers, it's Brooke Simmers, because of her dad. He had a child that was committing the same sins of the people that he had incarcerated. And he just couldn't get it. He couldn't get it. And I related very well because I was also struggling with how do you make family members that do not have an addiction understand we are not doing this because we like it. Who likes this misery? Who wants to do this? First, the injection sites started to like erupt. Then the skin would turn black. I almost lost both of my arms.
She was released from jail. She had been clean for months and months, and she wanted to get high. When you've been clean that long, you can't take the same amount that you did before you went in. She snuck out. She drove off and went and parked and crawled into the back seat of her little red Volkswagen and took a sweatshirt, folded it up in a little ball, and used it as a pillow. And she lay down and she died.
That Kroger, the Midwestern grocery chain, has decided to make the heroin overdose drug naloxone available without a prescription is a sign of how ominous the current epidemic has grown. Faced with a rising wave of addiction, misery, crime, and death, our nation has linked arms to save souls. Senators and CEOs, Midwestern pharmacies, and even tough-on-crime Republican presidential candidates now speak with moving compassion about the real people crippled by addiction. It wasn't always this way. 30 years ago, America was facing a similar wave of addiction, death, and crime, and the response could not have been more different. Television brought us endless images of thin, black, ravaged bodies, always with desperate dried lips. We learned the words crack baby. Back then, when addiction was a black problem, there was no wave of national compassion. Instead, we were warned of super predators, young, faceless black men wearing bandanas and sagging jeans. No matter how far from our lives crack was, we're guilty by association. By the time I was in college in the early 1990s, my short dreadlocks meant older women would cross the street to avoid me. African Americans were cast as pathological. Their plight was evidence of collective moral failure, of welfare mothers and rock-slinging thugs, and a reason to cut off all help. Blacks would just have to pull themselves out of the crack epidemic. Until then, the only answer lay in cordoning off the wreckage with militarized policing. Today, police chiefs facing heroin addiction are responding not by invoking war, but by trying to save lives and get people into rehab. Suddenly, crime is understood as a sign of underlying addiction rather than a scourge to be eradicated. One former narcotics officer said, "These are people. They have a purpose in life, and we can't look at it any other way." But he couldn't quite put his finger on just what had changed. His words reflect our collective self-denial. It's hard to describe how bittersweet many African Americans feel witnessing this. Glad to be rid of a failed war on drugs? Yes, but also weary and embittered. When the faces of addiction had dark skin, the police didn't see sons and daughters, sisters and brothers. They saw brothers, young thugs to be locked up, not people with a purpose in life. No one laments the violence the crack bomb set off more than African Americans. But how we respond to the crimes accompanying addiction depends on how much we care about those affected. White heroin addicts get overdose treatment, rehabilitation, and reincorporation. Black drug users got jail cells and just say no.
You know, we got to win this war on drugs. This drugs is ruining our country. And, you know, I bought into that. I loved it. I mean, I loved chasing guys down. I loved when they'd run. I loved tackling them. I loved arresting them. I mean, I felt like I'm on the front lines of the drug war. I mean, I felt good about it. If they had a lot of crack, good. If they had a little bit of crack, good. If they just had a pipe, fine. You know, at the end of the night, I wanted to have an arrest. I wanted to have a body. I did everything wrong here, man. I should have never talked to the police about nothing. Shouldn't have put her out. Should have just stood by her and got her in there. I don't know. I don't know what would have worked. I know what we did not work. In this drug business, they say you can love someone to death. You can love them to death. I feel like I did that. 20 years ago, most people felt that we need to arrest more people. But I think most people were wrong, and I think I was wrong. This epidemic was in the African American community for years, and we did nothing about it. She's a pretty white girl, lives in the suburbs, and I think that that could possibly be why people were calling this, saying, hey, how can we help? What we want to help. I now think the whole drug war is total bullshit.
All of these white voters were asking for compassion when it comes to opioids. You know, again, black folks were saying, man, it sure would have been nice to see the same level of compassion when we had the crack epidemic in the 1980s that ravaged black communities. And now all of a sudden, you know, white folks in America are realizing when you talk about opioids, you talk about meth, yeah, the issue with drugs and the impact on families is real.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really a scandal, and it's really a shame that in the 80s and in the 90s, it was considered a criminal problem, and now it's considered a medical problem.
Yep.
But I think
one of the things that intrigues the researchers is that it seems to be a North American phenomenon.
This is where the comparison with Europe is very important, because you don't really see deaths of despair.
Though in Southern Europe, you do see really high unemployment, particularly for young people.
We're not talking about unemployment here. It's much more to do with these, you know, things that you would correlate with the spiritual crisis.
The Europeans are not killing themselves the way that the Americans are. They've lost jobs. Technological change has come to Europe. So one of the places our research will go next is, what are the big differences between the Europeans and the Americans, that it's helping the Europeans keep body and soul together.
Deaton and Case offers some theories. One, the breakdown of families.
The things that make people want to kill themselves or lose the meaning of life are to do with things like your marriage has never worked out. You know, you don't know your kids anymore.
Social bonds deteriorating, is that what we're talking about?
Another theory, Americans making a religious migration to churches that Case thinks are changing the way faith connects in the community.
And you've said something really provocative on this. You've singled out the evangelical church.
That is a church that more people are identifying with, and it's a church which encourages my personal relationship with my Savior. In every state in prime age, whites' deaths from suicide went up between 1999 and 2016. But we think it's a real sign that something is not right.
The professors note that the suicide rate among middle-aged African Americans isn't on the rise, and it's far lower than that of whites.
Even though whites are wealthier, within an African American community, you feel you are part of a community.
Suicides are striking especially hard in a most unlikely area, one where the myth of America was made.
There's a suicide belt in America right up the Rocky Mountains.
Arizona, New Mexico, all the way up through Montana,
Alaska.
And then if you actually went further into Alaska.
Is that really a thing, a suicide belt?
That's what they call it. Do a colored map of the U.S. showing where suicide rate is higher. It looks like the Rocky Mountains.
Are we talking about despair caused by economic hardship, or is it something in the spirit of America?
I think economics may trigger some of these things, but in the end, it's a failure of spiritual and social life that drives people to suicide.
But, and I gotta ask you this, and that is, black folks have issues in the labor market as well. Is this a question that because of what's happening economically, white Americans can't handle stress?
You know, it's an interesting question. The historian Carol Anderson, in an article in Politico, said that for African Americans, if it's a case that you've always been oppressed, it's possible that you're resilient, whereas for whites, equality begins to look like oppression.